Warning: the following video contains explicit language which may be offensive to some viewers or inappropriate for children. The content within this video is intended for mature audiences only.
Hello and welcome to this video. Today we are going to do a bit of Gen X rambling, but I need to say up front that these series of videos I'm doing on just the ramblings of a Gen Xer are inspired by the shorts and reels and stuff that I've seen on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube by other Gen Xers. These videos are going to be a little bit more nuanced. They're going to be more anecdotal, with anecdotes from my personal life, things that I did, or I should say how I remember I did them. And I don't want to take anything away from the very talented, very genuine people that do the Gen X shorts, or Gen X tubers, I guess you'd call them, because they do good work. They just do in 60 seconds a minute. I almost said 2 a minute, but which is always fun to do to my sister-in-law. But the elasticity of our generation and the myriad of experiences, adventures. I also need to point out I've got my chickens out, so I'll be turning my head like this, and you see it, I'm watching the chickens, make sure they're not getting up in any foul business or anything, pun intended. One of the things I love about Generation X, because I am Generation X, first of all. Second of all, we can be broken down into 3 categories. And the categories as I see them. Other Gen Xers may see it differently, which is cool, because we all, as Gen Xers, we really don't give a fuck. However, the flexibility within the things that we lived through and are currently living through make our generation kind of special. We are currently considered the forgotten generation, or the generation that disappeared. A lot of that is because of the way we were brought up. We were brought up by baby boomers. Baby boomers grew up in a very strict household, and we grew up in a fairly strict household. My interpretation of what happened is boomers did not fully comprehend the changes that happened from their birth till they started having children. Yes, everything was still analog, but cities blew up. I mean, when I say blow up, I mean they grew. The cities' attitudes changed. We had the 60s, that happened. So we are the result of strict parenting, Vietnam War, LSD, marijuana, and many other things. That's that's what made us. We are also born into a time period in which both parents went to work. So we were basically, from about the time we woke up for school in the morning, for me it was about 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning, to our parents got home about 5:30, 6 o'clock in the evening, Monday through Friday. Except for my father, he was military. I had the fortune to have grown up not only Generation X, I grew up as an Army brat, and I grew up as an enlisted Army brat. So those socioeconomic factors, that whole culture, military culture, like I said, we're talking, my earliest memories are Nixon resigning from office, Ford taking over, America bailing on South Vietnamese, and that, like I said, that's my earliest memories. Then moving into, actually no, I kind of lied there. One of the earliest things I remember is my father throwing a case of ass when Nixon devaluated the dollar. That was almost as spectacular as when gas hit like 75 cents a gallon in the late 70s. Oh, I thought my father was going to have a heart attack. 75 cents a gallon for gas. Yeah, that was just, my father was unglued by that. Now where I am at currently, gas is about $2.99 to about $3.08 a gallon. So we've experienced inflation on gas over the years, which is kind of interesting. My memories of Nixon resigning and Ford coming into office are touch and go. I was 5, 6 years old at that time. I was born in '69, and like I said, my memories of that are touch and go, because when this happened, my father was stationed in Germany, and we watched it on Armed Forces Network, and that's one of the things both of my parents were big into, was not necessarily agreeing and or disagreeing with your elected officials, but always keeping tabs on what they're doing. That was just, I remember the Carter inauguration, because when Jimmy Carter was inaugurated, being in a little town on the just off post called Copper's Cove, the school basically shut down. We were all herded into the auditorium, and we watched the inauguration of Jimmy Carter. That was just what we did then. The next time I think the school shut down like that was the Reagan administration, when Reagan was inaugurated the first time, and when the space shuttle blew up. Those I have very, very, very vivid memories of that. Now, when Reagan was shot, Fort Hood went on alert, and basically everything stopped. We got loaded up on buses, sent home, and that happened. I remember that very vividly, because my brain, first of all, couldn't comprehend how or why somebody would want to shoot a president. What could they have done that was so bad to make you want to shoot the president? I learned later on in life that it was over a crush over Jodie Foster. Guy wanted to impress Jodie Foster so she would fall in love with him. But at the time, I could not imagine, my brain just couldn't comprehend this wanting to shoot president. That's just my just experiences. Another thing is when we went into Grenada, before everything hit the news and stuff, school, like a day and a half, maybe 2 days. I'm kind of foggy on that, but school shut down. The excuse was administrative training or something along those lines. Then 2 days later, boom, we hit Grenada. So that was interesting. That was in and of itself, that was kind of surreal. Because at that age, I was convinced of the American mythology that we were the it country. We were the country. No one would screw with us, and that got shattered. Other things that were amusing that I remember from my childhood. So me and a friend of mine, we would routinely go from Carver's Cove to Lampasas, which was 17 miles, and or Killeen, which was about 20, I want to say 20 miles. They had just opened up a mall, and this is before we were old enough to drive. We would simply get on our bikes and go. We'd go down Highway 190 on our bikes. It was a thing. It happened. We did it several times. I have no recollection of us ever getting in trouble with our parents for it. I can't speak for a friend of mine because, well, he spent most of probably 4th grade through about 8th grade on being grounded by his parents because of ideas I had. I was out there. I am still pretty much out there. You can ask my wife. But the whole beauty and wonder of it all, it was just that we would do things like, here's something this will probably people that are young might get a kick out of. When I was growing up, in the town I was growing up in, there was a gun store. We're in Texas, there's gun stores. We have gun stores, churches, liquor stores. The gun store would not sell smokeless powder for like reloading, like Bullseye or IMR or anything like that, to a minor. But you could go in and buy black powder all day long. You could buy fuse cord all day long. And what we would do is get like your empty Excedrin bottles, your empty anything that we had that had a lid on it that would seal pretty tight. we would use. We'd take and drill a hole. And what we would do is we'd lay out, we had the wide masking tape. We'd lay the fuse into the masking tape, it was paper, and we would put a pretty good layer of black powder. Then we would put another piece on it and we'd wrap it up into a ball. We'd put it into said container, and you can only imagine what we did with it afterward. Fortunately, I still have all 10 fingers or 8 fingers, 2 thumbs, 10 toes. I won't show you toes, they're gross. So we did that. That happened. And of course, like I said, during the school year, from about 5:30 in the morning till about 5 to 6 o'clock at night, it was us. And in the summertime, I did not like doing chores. There were things that I had to do, mowing the yard, trimming, stuff like that. Usually stuff outside the house. My sister was tasked with everything inside the house. And that was the thing. So what I would do is I would get up in the summertime when the grass needed mowing. I would get up as close to daylight as I could. When I could physically see from one side of the yard to the other, I would get up and mow. I'd get it all knocked out. So by about the time cartoons came on, stuff like that, I had my chores done. Mowing, picking up the yard, weeding the garden, whatever. Watch some cartoons. If it was a Saturday, we watched cartoons. If it was a Sunday or a Monday, we were gone. I probably spent more time sneaking, not really sneaking because Fort Hood was an open base. Spent more time in the woods where Carper's Cove butted up against Fort Hood growing up than I ever did in my own house, other than to eat dinner, sleep, breakfast. Other than that, we were on our own. And the funny thing is back then, we could be anywhere in the world, our world. And if we were thirsty, we'd go up some stranger's house, grab the water hose, get us a little drink, turn the water hose off. If there was nobody home or anything, we'd write out a thank you note. We'd stick it in the screen door. It was just, that was something my parents taught me that you do, because we would write a thank you for the use of your hose, you know, whatever. And I would sign it. My friend would sign it. We'd put it up. Those things happened. That's what we did. Now food was done with allowance and pocket change, money. We learned at a very young age that money was essential. So we always had a hustle. We always had some kind of hustle, whether it was mowing lawns. I threw papers for most of my junior high and high school years, from about 7th grade through about the beginning of the second semester of my senior year in high school. I threw newspapers. All the kids in our neighborhoods had some kind of hustle like that. That's because money. You needed money to buy things. And We had the local Dairy Queen. We had a couple small, we had fast food restaurants, but me and my friend weren't really mindful of fast food. We didn't really care for it. If somebody else bought it for us, so we would eat it, but we weren't going to go out of our way to eat fast food. We would go to, imagine this if you can, not upscale restaurants, but there was a restaurant called Storms. It was local ma and pa. I think the original was in Lampasas, and they moved to Cove, but Storms, it was more than fast food, but it wasn't quite a restaurant. It's more like a burger joint, like your old school burger joint that you see like in Happy Days or American Graffiti or something like that. That's the styling, that was the atmosphere they go for. That was one of our favorite places to eat because the hamburgers we got and the french fries we got and the soda we got, and I can't even tell you, I mean, it's probably ridiculously stupid cheap compared to what the same meal would cost you now at a modern burger joint, but that was usually where we had lunch. It was right across, there was an old Gibson's, that's kind of the predecessor to TG&Y. TG&Y was kind of the predecessor to Walmart. But we had a Gibson's. We'd go over there because, well, we could walk around the store in the AC during the summer, and we would eventually buy something, buy a Coke or something, We went in there to justify us being in the air conditioner for 20, 30 minutes during the day. That was just what we did. Then there was an arcade, Triple M Arcade. I remember it well. Okay, sorry about that. We had to do a battery change on the GoPro. The heat out here it's a combination of the heat and everything else. But where was I? We did the Gibson Triple M Arcade. Not the most reputable arcade on the planet. There were things bought and sold there that are illegal, very. There were acts between active people, usually of the male and female sort, that probably, actually, there's no probably to it. It was exactly what you're thinking. An encounter for a price. Let's put it that way. Oh, that was the memories. Yeah, we had very, very colorful childhood. We did crazy things. Things now, if kids did a quarter of what we did growing up, they would probably be incarcerated forever. And I imagine if I would have chose to have kids, I would have probably raised them the way I was raised. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. I would probably be incarcerated, just because it was that free. For us, it was the Wild West. There was a closed down rock quarry not too far from where I lived. We'd go up there. That's where we took some of our medicine concoction builds and would stick it in areas where they'd bored in a rock, stick it in there, light it, go hide, and it would do its thing. Learned a lot about making things go bang in those years. See, what else did we do? Firecrackers. Yes, firecrackers. Roman candle fights. Bottle rockets. The real bottle rockets, the small bottle rockets, the ones that could put your eye out or put you on the back of a milk cart in a heartbeat. Yeah, these were things we did. And of course, you've heard the cliche of BB gun fights. We had those. Let's see, what else did we do? We had rock fights. Yeah, it was, when we were out on our own, it was wild. It was wild frontier. And the fact that we had the ability not to die, those of us who didn't die, those of us who still have all our fingers and our toes, it's kind of interesting. It was an interesting time. I'm sure there's other Gen Xers out there that have stories that are way beyond my mundane little anecdotes. Yeah, we listen to music. We listen to lots of music. A lot of the best music. But one thing that a lot of Gen Xers will not own up to is that the really good music that we listen to were made by people that were outcasts from the boomers. They were boomer outcasts. Paul Simon, Kiss, Metallica, you know, all these. Well, Metallica may have been OG Xers. They came around mid-late 80s. They could have been early Gen Xers. I've never actually sat and looked up their birth dates of any of the band members. They could have been early Gen Xers now I think about it. But Paul Simon definitely, Gene Simmons and Kiss, yeah, definitely boomers. Who else? Would have Bob Dylan, all those kinds of people. I'm trying. If the camera was turned off, I'd be able to spit out probably 24. But now, because I'm trying to video it, it's brain's locking. But it was wild. It was. I think our whole generation was an outcast. That's why we read Kerouac. That's the reason why we listened to Dylan. It's the reason why we experimented with the herbs that we experimented with. Early on in life, I came across Albert Hoffman, Terence McKenna, and who else? I hate it when brain does that. Brain just stops cold. See, Hoffman, McKenna, Cheech and Chong, Hunter S. Thompson. These, or at least for me in the group I hung out with, those were pretty much our role models. So, you know, it was what it was. I discovered H.L. Mencken, M-E-N-I-C-H-E-N, Mencken. No, there's no I in M-E-N-C-K-E-N, Mencken. However, came across his literary contributions, his cynicism, his contribution. I mean, way back in the 20s, I mean, he He was preparing. He was getting prepared for Gen X back in the early part of the 20th century. He knew we were coming, and he laid it out for us. Yeah, that's just all of these people, all of these things. So, until next time, peace.